Alright everyone, so now we've looked at the base game wonders, and we're going to look at the Pantheon expansion and how that changes the wonders. So, let's go from the top. With wonders, maybe with the god cards, you want to look at the least important god cards because you're sending those god cards to your opponent's side. Uh, Priority of this video, we're going to look at the top because that is the most important ones you're going to be grabbing, and you're going to be left with whatever's left over. So you're going to be left with the pyramids a lot of times, but so those aren't as important. Important to talk about is your very first choice generally should be the Divine Theater if it's out there as an option. Okay, if you don't have an extra turn though, and you're going to be in a situation, maybe it's the second four wonders that you're drafting, where you won't have an extra turn, I might, maybe, maybe I would put it below Temple of Artemis. But I would put it above the rest of the extra turn wonders. Okay, so even in that scenario, what does that mean? What did I just say? That means that if you end up taking the Great or the Divine Theater, that's this one, over an extra turn, then you may end up being left with no extra turns. And that's okay sometimes. But in the last four, if I know that I have a choice between Temple of Artemis and the Divine Theater, I will take Temple of Artemis just to have a little more control. But yeah, if you take the Divine Theater first, and then your opponent takes Temple of Artemis, and then there's like two other Dodo cards, then the next four might have an extra turn for you to take. So it's good to have control, but it's also good to have the Divine Theater. The Divine Theater offers up so much as far as you can look at my Pantheon God card video. Yeah, you definitely want to have access to any of those god powers. Just so powerful to have. So, and especially you could use Ra to take away your opponent's Temple of Artemis. They could do that to you if you take Temple of Artemis first and they take this one. So it ends up being really scary if your opponent starts getting a lot of coins and they start being able to build the Divine Theater, and they build it and take away uh, the uh, the Temple of Artemis from you. So yeah, it should make sense to everyone why I place this one as the S tier. Like 99% of the time, the number one of the S tier, the Divine Theater, so powerful. And you can win games with no control. You can win games with no extra turns. Just as kind of difficult, but you can pull it off, and you can build the Divine Theater for a science card, and then just hope that the science card gets flipped up for you in one of those lucky flips. Going on down, the Temple of Artemis doesn't change too much. In fact, it gets better with the Pantheon expansion. Anything that's giving coins becomes better in the Pantheon expansion. The Piraeus doesn't give coins, and so it becomes less important, but it is nice that it gives you a gray resource. But I would say the Hanging Gardens beats it out when you add the Pantheon expansion. Crazy to think. Next up, we're looking at a wonder that gives coins, the Appian Way. I would say that one goes up to A tier at this point because it gives you some coins. Although it does cost a lot of coins, so maybe it goes back down. But I really think that it's up there. Like it becomes more important getting those coins for the Pantheon expansion. At the bottom of S tiers, don't fight me too much on that. But I wanted to talk about these two. I think the Sphinx is better than the Sanctuary. You add the Sanctuary in. Sphinx makes you want to build late game. The Sanctuary gives you a -2 cost for gods the rest of the game. What does that make you want to do? It makes you want to build that god or that temple early. Same thing with Piraeus. For the rest of the game, getting an ability. For the rest of the game, getting an ability. For the rest of the game, getting an ability. Those three. Um, when a wonder does that, then it makes you think that you should be building it early. But in general, in the Pantheon expansion, you want to build your wonders late game. So don't be tricked into maximizing those wonders for their benefits, because you could really miss out on a lot of good things for that. In fact, maybe I'll even put this one lower. And if I'm going to do that, Goodness, I'm gonna put. Yeah, I'm gonna put them both in A tier. So the top three are now the Divine Theater, the Temple of Artemis, and the Hanging Gardens. And then the A tier are going to be this one because hey, it's great to not have to worry about gray cards for the game. The Appian Way, it's great to get some coins and then maybe take some coins away from your opponent so that they can't afford a god card. Sphinx is great at the late game. You can say, "Oh, awesome! I was told by Board in the House YouTube channel that I need to build my wonders late game. Perfect. The Sphinx gives me 6 points at the late game if I need it. If I need those points, so I'll wait to build those. But the coins I need now, and the resources I really need now. Um, and then there's this Sanctuary. It makes you pay 2 less coins for gods. That is a potential savings of maybe 10 coins. Yep. So yeah, it's gonna save you on 10 coins. Um, well, could be 12 coins if you grab every single god, but you're not going to do that. So realistically, probably the max is going to be 10 coins. It saves you if you build it at the end of age one, let's say, because that's a good time to build a wonder. If there's one caveat to my build all your wonders late game, it's if you're the first player, you want to build a wonder in age one. And I talk about that in my masterclass video. You can check it out. The Be the Pilot is the name of that video. But you want to build maybe one wonder with the first player trick if you're the first player, and that wonder would be nice to be the Sanctuary or the Piraeus, if only those wonders also gave some coins. um, they give a lasting effect the rest of the game though, so if you have 8 coins or more, you're sitting pretty for taking the whatever god you want to the next stage. You may in that case, I mean, look at how much the gate costs, but you may in that case want to take and build Piraeus for the discounts the rest of the game. And for the same rule, you may want to build the Sanctuary. But a lot of times people go into the next stage only having 6 coins or 5 coins or 3 coins, and they go into the next stage thinking, oh no. Well, in that case, you may want to build the Temple of Artemis, build one of these ones going into H2 so you have the coins necessary to really not focus on building wonders, but focus on grabbing god cards. And then it becomes less important about maximizing a 2 coin benefit, more important about grabbing 12 coins right now so that you can afford way more than maybe max 10 coin discount of all the gods you will eventually take. Or maybe max, I don't know how many coins you're going to save from a single gray card, but a gray card discount. But yeah, these ones that give discounts the rest of the game, they're fine, but really you want to be focused on coins. Uh, Appian Way is just very expensive to buy, so you may be spending more coins than you gain. The Sphinx just giving you points, but hey, those points could come in handy if it comes down to like neither of you can grab your 6th science. So, and if you're playing a good Pantheon game, you end up not coming down to science. A really exciting game comes down to points at the end. All right, so then how does this change? This next one, I would say the Great Library is a little bit less useful than the Mausoleum. And I'll tell you why. The reason is because the Mausoleum allows you to take a card from the discard pile. That god card Zeus can put a card into the discard pile, and it could be a card that you really need. If your opponent uses Zeus to block you from doing that, and they just discard a Dodo card, then they just spent their coins to block an advantage that you have. So take the Mausoleum because you, at the worst, make your opponent spend coins to do something that's not advantageous to their winning and only trying to stop an advantage of yours. But at the best, you can use that Zeus card as an advantage and take Mausoleum and take whatever card you wanted that you discarded. You could discard a Science early on in H1. Maybe you're needing coins and you're like, okay, I don't want my opponent to get this Science card. I don't have the coins for it. I'm going to discard it. And the game's going to usually come down to science. I'd say 50% of the time in the Pantheon expansion, but should probably only come down to science maybe 25% of the time in the base game. So double the amount of times that it would come down to science. Yeah, definitely grabbing the Mausoleum in that case. Also, there are added progress tokens in the Pantheon expansion that you should consider with or how that affects the Great Library. One of them makes it cost only 1 coin to build certain cards. One of them gives you, anywhere from maybe 2 to 10 points. Yeah, those two progress tokens are not that great. You just heard me, right? Just saving on some coins and giving some points. That's not what you're about. You're fine spending the coins. You're going to be discarding half the cards in the game to try to get a science advantage in the Pantheon expansion. Therefore, the Great Library becomes way less useful, and maybe even less useful than these military cards. But it really depends on what's out there for the progress tokens. So, the Great Library, I'll keep it right there at B, but if all the good progress tokens are already out there, you see theology, you see strategy, you see law out there already, this thing easily becomes worse than the military wonders. And so that is something to think about. But on average, I would say we'll just keep it right there. You could pull off something cool with it. Then we have the Circus Maximus, a way to defend yourself if you're getting beat down by military, because the perfect way to beat a science strategy is kill you in H2 with military. If you can get a military advantage or try to push back against their military onslaught, then with Circus Maximus, you're set, and you make them lose a gray card. Better you take it than them take it and make and then you lose a gray card because you didn't take it. Better you take this statue of Zeus than them take it for making you lose a brown card. The interesting thing, though, is if you build these in H2, there's an issue there because then now you might be winning in military. You don't want to be winning in military if you want to have the first turn in H3 and choose the science card that you need. And so that's why these two are not B tier yet, but they do get a buff in Pantheon because it defends against it's like a backup. You can call on it if you need it at any time. It's not like your opponent can take it. The cards in the middle between you and your opponent, yeah, you each have an equal chance of taking. And they could take the sign or they could take the military card that you need to stop them from crushing your coins and then eventually taking your capital. But if you have the resources for these reinforcements, they're always for you. Your opponent's not going to take them, and you can use the military shield that each of them has. Now, I did just say your opponent can't take them. There's a potential your opponent could take a military card with the Divine Theater or with Ra. If they take that away from you, they're missing out on taking away one of your extra turns. So likely that won't happen too often. But I have seen some very aggressive players out there do some cool strategies. There's a god that lets you rebuild a wonder. Let's go over the rest of these. Now, these two are still trash. The Great Lighthouse and the pyramids. Just they're only about a point strategy generally. So now, since the main strategy is not points, not even military, it's science now. Um, we can look and see. All right, extra turns allow me to take the science cards I want. If it's one card I need, yeah, I'll take an extra turn. If it's a bunch of cards I'm going to need, like a bunch of points, then then not one single wonder is going to do it for me. And so, yeah, sure, like grab some resources along the way. But if I'm just looking at points, then, or sorry, just looking at science, yeah, extra turns are very important. And now we think about the gods. Isis lets you unbuild a wonder. I just told you those extra turns can be converted into a science symbol that you need. You're looking for just one card. You find that science symbol. Isis, the god card that lets you unbuild a wonder, after you've built that extra turn, you can unbuild that extra turn and then have another extra turn, which you can then convert into another science symbol. So that makes each of these extra turns convert into one or maybe two science symbols, potentially. Um, the Divine Theater, same thing. The Divine Theater can copy a science token of your opponent with Nisaba. It can get Law with Ishtar. And then you can unbuild it, or you can unbuild one of your extra turns and get a whole another 12 coins and another science symbol with your extra turn. So you can use Isis via the Divine Theater. There's a lot of things you can do with Divine Theater. You can steal an extra turn from your opponent. And that, the math gets crazy there, because if I just told you an extra turn is 1 or possibly 2 science cards, then stealing an opponent's opponent's extra turn, becomes subtracting them 1 or 2 and giving you 1 or 2 science cards. And then there's just, the math of how to get science cards and convert extra turns and stolen wonders into science cards gets crazy. But yeah, stealing an extra turn from your opponent really becomes powerful there. Now you can unbuild the Great Library and get another progress token. If it's not the one you wanted, you can go get another one, and then you'll have both of them. You can unbuild the Mausoleum to take another card from the discard pile. That's pretty powerful. You can unbuild, and now watch if your opponent has Hades though, because if your opponent has Hades, they also could grab, if Hades is out there rather, or your opponent has Divine Theater and Hades is still in the Greek god deck, then your opponent could use that special ability that you have and just as easily and take a card from the discard pile even before you could build a Mausoleum and do it yourself. The military cards can all be unbuilt. You can unbuild the Circus Maximus. You still keep your shield out there. You still keep your military pawn where it's at, and or the military pawn. It's not yours, but maybe you feel like it is. And then you could rebuild it again, push it again 1 more space for a total of 2 military and 2 cards discarded from your opponent, and like taken away from your opponent's economy. That's pretty powerful. You could unbuild the Colossus and rebuild it for a total of 4 shields, and you only need 9 more than your opponent to win. That's just insane. I've seen that happen with Colossus. You're never going to unbuild these 3. We talked about these 3. Boom, boom, boom. You're probably not going to want to unbuild those ones. I mean, I have had to unbuild Piraeus because I needed an extra turn, and I didn't have any other extra turns because I had them use Raw on my Temple of Artemis. And so, but I was able to win that game. From my memory, I think I unbuilt Piraeus and was able to use the extra turn there. So that is my tier list for the Pantheon expansion. Now, if you want my tier list real quick for Agora, but I'll never make a video for it because I won't ever be that good at the Agora expansion, I would say Curia Julia is probably right there, and Knossos is probably right there. So as they add expansions, they just add more. Um, maybe Knossos is less than Divine Theater, but yeah. So if you're gonna add both expansions, maybe that's how it would look. But I don't want to put that there too much. I don't want to spend. Oh, I guess once you add it, you can't take it off. Okay. Well, that is my Pantheon expansion tier list. Just know that the Divine Theater is the most important card in there. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.